Welcome to Play Misty for You. I had this experience today with this thrift store find, which, by the way, I'm amazing at. I have this yellow silk dress. It's like gold mustardy, just beautiful silk dress, new with tags. Found it for like $12 at the Salvation Army. I'm going to photograph it this morning for Poshmark. Themed, ready. I go to tie the yellow sash on it to make it perfect. I hang it on this plant stand on my bookshelf. Obviously, this plant stand with the dirt and the water and everything in it can handle a hanger of a silk dress, and I completely misjudged that. I turn around, the plant falls over, dress, dirt, water, new rug, water, everything, plant, dirt on the ground. I'm sweeping and I move on. My friend called a little bit later and she was talking about how we can see in each other that we've grown so much. And it reminded me of, as a writer, that you want your characters to go through conflict so we can see something about them, right? Like if you see a character that's driving in traffic and honking and beeping and cursing, you're more informed about who that person is. Whereas if you see a character who's in traffic and allowing people in and, waving at everyone and singing in the car, you have an idea about how that person is. One person is fostering from the SPCA every other weekend, and one person is you don't want them anywhere near your puppy with their boots on. With that in mind, and her talking about the growing, I realized that plant thing that happened at the very beginning of my morning, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, on a bad day, 8 months ago, could have had me just writing off the rest of the day, right? Like, well, there it goes. Of course that happens. Why? All the things. And instead it was just spit up. Maybe the cleaners can get out of the dress. Maybe it's not that much worth it. We're moving on. It was good to see something tangible to validate, what a badass I am. What a humble, adorable, sweet, darling baddie that your Misty is. And that brought me to picking up another phone call where a friend says, hey, I have this person in my life that I respect so much, and they're telling me that I feel a certain way that I don't feel. And I'm like, girl, I got you. I got experience with that all day long. Let's go back to 2000 something. I'm in, let's call it 2003. I live in Dallas. I have a sponsor that I adore. A sponsor that I think is probably either Mother Nature or her cousin, okay? On the DL, I felt like this woman who showed up all the time in REI and LL Bean and J. Crew gear, I thought she probably went home and she lived in a forest and she put on like white gauzy clothes. And there were roots that sprang from the heels of her feet because this woman just all the time gave maternal, flowy, goddessy. I adored her, obviously. And I ran into her in a coffee shop. A couple of days later, she calls me and says, hey, by the by, you look like you're not doing so well. Excuse me? Excuse me? She said that she felt like just the way I was or whatever, that I just seemed like I was in a bad place. And I was like, I'm in a great place. I remember I was writing on a project, like I was in a good space. And she was like, no, you know what? I think you're about to drink and you're just not being honest with yourself about it. I was like, wow, whoa. Let me ponder that. So I do. I go home, I ponder, I check in with some counsel. I come back and go, that's just not that true for me. I'm just not feeling that way. I don't think that's right. And she said, well, I don't see how I can continue to sponsor you. I obviously was devastated. I said, no, we can get through this. This is not, that's still what you said you think I'm going to drink. It's fine. We can move on. I dealt with more denial in family situations. I can handle this. Like, let's move on. Nope. She said no. If I wasn't willing to admit the truth that she didn't see how she could sponsor me, that was a tough one. And that's not how sponsorship goes. And this is one reason people don't talk about recovery and all this stuff, because one picture does not sum up all the beauty and all the amazing connections and blah, 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 beautiful. But this instance, I was happy to have the experience to share with another woman and say, the way my friend was talking, I could just tell in her voice that she was grounded. She knew herself. She was being told she was being combative, which I've been told once or twice before too. And I could tell in her voice she wasn't being combative. She just didn't agree with the assessment. Come to find out, in my situation, that sponsor later came and made amends to me. She had another sponsee that she had been sponsoring for longer than me. It was, I think, her first one. And that sponsee had gone back out, had relapsed. My sponsor, she didn't see any warning signs. And to her, it looked like just one day, this sponsee just picked up. So she had 8 other sponsees. She went to all 8 of them and said, you're about to drink. You're not working hard enough on your program. I know from a friend of mine that 7 of them said, you're absolutely right. I got to go to more meetings. I got to work harder. I got to do it. I agree with you. And I was like, no, that's not how I feel. And that's the thing about being combative too much. It's like the little boy who cried wolf, because I have been combative too much that when it really counts, it can just look like, there she goes. She's being combative again. She's disagreeing again. But there's certain times where it's like, no, I'm in my truth. It just doesn't line up with everyone else. And I'm so glad I didn't abandon myself in that moment. And I'm really glad I could tell my friend today that I could stand in her corner, even if no one else was going to, and say, I believed how she was feeling today. Also, credit to the sponsor that came back and made amends. And years later, validated my gut, my intuition that said, nope, I know myself. I write. I check in. I meditate daily. No, not so much. But I'm familiar with the internal workings of my soul. And today, good luck, someone on the outside trying to tell me what I'm seeing is different than what they're seeing. I don't know how to describe it. It's not like I'm not willing to take in new input. It would be idiotic. Only a fool doesn't take new information in and reassess their opinion. Only a fool. So I'm absolutely willing, if somebody says, hey, you're stepping off track, I am absolutely willing to go, okay, I will take that. Let me go check it out with my internal being. And there's many times where I'm like, you know what? 100%, I'm stepping off track. But there's also times where like, no, that just doesn't ring true for me. It's only the people I truly, truly respect that I would even go offline and go check in. So a plant falling, friend calling, and I summoned my truth. Here's what I'm wondering. Have you had a conflict recently that revealed something about how you are now, or how you would have handled it differently 5 or 10 years ago? Okay, send it to me. You can do it anonymous. You can put your name. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to read questions on here. So get them in there. PMFY@MistyMcPhee.com. P, M as in Mary, F as in Frank, Y at MistyMcPhee.com. You don't need to tell me the whole story, just the tension and where the character revealed. And today's episode is sponsored by OtisIncLA.com. Real European made wheel hardware. Use Misty today at checkout. That is Misty, the number 2, DAY. For a free upgrade to 2-day air shipping. Do you like it? I like it. All right, talk tomorrow.